All right. Good evening, councillors, and welcome, and good evening to our guests and our staff members that are present tonight. We'll begin by acknowledging the Ngadjuri and Nagana people, the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present today. Do we have any apologies? I have one from Councillor Dean Rawlack. Any further apologies? No further apologies. We have no leave of absence and we have no non-attendance. Councillors, section 3 is a confirmation of council's minutes of the ordinary meeting held on Tuesday the 27th of September. Would someone like to move they be a true and correct record? Thanks, Councillor Bill and Councillor Jason. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Councillors, we move on now to the Mayor's communications initially, and I'm going to be very brief tonight with what we've got to say, and just speak on a couple of the matters that I was invited to attend as a representative of the council, and not just a private individual. The first one was that the Annalby annual Women in Wool by the Woolmark Corporation. They do this each year at the famous Annalby station, which we might all be aware was established by Francis Dutton many years ago, and still has the original bloodstock on the property. They've done some amazing things, the gentlemen out there that are currently own Annalby, and they have an open day each year also, which was held a couple of weekends ago. The Women in Wool was a great opportunity to meet a lot of people, including two ministers. Minister Zoe Beddison, who I think is familiar with many of us as being a local Escapunda High School student, and she's now Minister for Tourism. And Minister Claire Scriven, who's the Minister for Primary Industry. So it was a good opportunity to have a chat with those folks. It's a great occasion, and one I look forward to each year. The other one was the St Eves, the opening of St Eves last week with the local planning minister, Dick Champion, another Kapunda High School graduate, who's Minister for Planning and a number of other portfolios. He was there, and also Tim Haitley, who was the principal of Trinity College, which is being established at St Eves. I must say it's a state-of-the-art office, and the initial display village is first class. It's quite an extraordinary development, and Trinity College, of course, are going to have a presence here, a major presence. I had the opportunity to say a few words, which I was pretty honoured to do. This has been a journey over 11 years for this council to see those first houses being occupied at Roseworthy as part of this development. There are two more developments, of course. There's Villawood and Higginbotham still to establish, but it's quite amazing what Land Vision have done already. And if the other two developers do equal to that standard, we're going to see a very, very unusual and amazing place. When we talk about Roseworthy, we can talk about education, and our council to bring young people up here to live and to raise young people, their children, with fabulous education opportunities, with 2 private schools, with Xavier College and Trinity. We also have Uringa Kapunda High School, of course, which is a top school, and a handful of very, very classy primary schools for young people. But also, on top of that, a university and a veterinary science school, probably only 1 of 3 in Australia, and a high performance equine centre for horses. So when you see what this region's got to offer, it's a lot for young families to come to. And that's why Roseworthy was a vision by probably Michael Higginbotham initially, and it's coming alive, and it's going to house people that can take advantage of the education facilities that are available for their families. So we wait with our eyes wide open to see what's going to happen next. But that was quite an honour to be able to be at that occasion, and it was a very, very classy morning. And thanks, Richard, for being there also. The other one was last Sunday at the Kapunda High School. They celebrated their 100th anniversary. And that's an amazing achievement when you think about it. A school that's been going for 100 years. Of course, Uringa, which was the original school, was the home of Sir Sidney Kidman. Previous to that, it was Mr. Greenslades. But when Kidman had that home, it did burn down. So this is not the first time that Uringa has to be re-established and restored. But believe me, that's what they intend to do. And it's on the way. They've started. They haven't, not about to start, they have started. And Uringa will hopefully one day be back to its former glory. And certainly inside the building will be probably a more user-friendly situation than what it was. Originally it was a homestead, of course, a house, and turned into a school, but now it'll be a school. And so inside will be far more user-friendly for the students and for the staff. So that was a great occasion. I'm so honoured to get that invitation to be there. Councillor Dean Rawlack was a principal at the school, and 3 other ex-principals were there also. So, you know, they were well represented. The students, as usual, did a fantastic job, and there was a lot of people there. So that was Sunday at Trinity, at Anlabeek, at Kapunda High School. See what happens? I get confused. I don't think I need to go on any further, councillors. So thanks for your indulgence there. Any other council reports at this point? Councillor Simon?
Well, maybe could I just make a note on the Roseworthy function the other day. There's now 900 students at the Roseworthy University, and Peter and I were there. When I was there, there was 315. So it's that was only a few years ago.
Wow!
So it's huge compared to what it was. That's great. And let's hope we don't have a fire every 100 years at the Kapunda High School.
Thank you, Councillor Bill. Councillor Simon.
So I attended the same opening of the St. Eves, but I went to the William Lakes opening as well, which was at the same day. So just a couple of things. So one thing is they have like a 23-page encumbrance booklet, which says how the thing's going to have to look. You guys know what the encumbrance are. And then there's 1 page dedicated to sustainability, and 1 out of 24. And so credit where credit's due. I suppose they're saying that all homes must include a roof-mounted PV system with a minimum capacity of 1.5 kilowatt, which I think that's a great thing. And then all hot water systems for each home must be either heat pumped or solar boosted. Great initiative. The reason why I bring this up is because we've been talking about a model home in these developments. So these guys with these encumbrance do a small little thing, a good thing. So I think it's really, there's the opportunity for us to jump in there and do something. I think will be there. So that's why I bring this up. The other thing, which is a bit less good, I reckon, is there's a second booklet just explaining what William Lakes is and everything. And if you go to the 1 page there, and I mean, I'd hate this document to get into the hands of some Gaulerites that want to take over our land, because if you look, I don't know if you guys can see it from here, but the page is all Gawler Town Centre here, William Lakes up here. The description, what's around William Lakes. It's all about Gawler Town Centre, all the shops in Gawler, all the thing in Gawler, the education, Xavier College, Hewitt Primary School, Gawler Primary School, Emmanuel Luther School, Gawler Primary School, everything about Gawler, and not a single word about anything that's in Light Council. I mean, Xavier College is mentioned. Yeah, well, but I mean, there's a school like right here. They're not mentioned that one. The Rosary Primary School. There's nothing about Kapondo or anything. So it's just the way it's positioned. I mean, they're talking about Gawler. It is 100% geared towards Gawler. So you can imagine the people from Gawler thinking that they want to take this up. I mean, they don't want to take this yet, but that's the next step, right? So you can, this sort of just exacerbates the problem that we facing. So I'm just, I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, but maybe these guys need to look a bit further north as well, because although they're called, it is Gawler Belt, obviously, so the Gawler is in the name, but really, I thought this should be part of Rosary. It should be part of Light Council. It should be a bit more north oriented. So that's one thing that I thought a bit strange. And there's one more second thing. So that I sort of attended, it was because last meeting I sort of thought it would be a good thing to have a meet the candidate session, and it didn't look like anyone in here was really too keen on that. So a friend of mine organized one for me and Trevor Ryan, and it was a good success. We had about 40, 50 people show up, and we had a very good exchange. And the only reason why I mention it is, well, you guys missed out on it, that's one reason why I mentioned it. But the other reason is that I think it was just a really good exercise. So people loved it. I loved it. Everybody was like, it was just good to have a frank exchange between councillors and the public. And this is the first time I've done it in 4 years. So if I'm fortunate enough, fortunate to say enough to get elected again, I will definitely try to do this more often, because I think it's just a crucial thing. I mean, just in this one meeting, the stuff that I heard about what these people want and what they don't want, and the questions they asked me, was just absolutely really good. So we need to do this much more often.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. Any further reports from anybody? Councillor Mark.
Just very quickly. So as you're aware, this council gives money to Operation Flinders every year.
Yes.
I first heard about it through the council, thought, what's this all about? Put my name down. When it went down there to see what it was all about, ended up getting offered a spot there to go out with them. So about 2 years of training later, I finally went on my first exercise last month. We went to obviously the Flinders Rangers. I went with Millicent High School. Half the kids wanted to be there, half didn't, which was a great mix. I enjoyed it a lot compared to what I'm used to in my job. I had time of my life. After the 8 days, as they got on their bus and they left, I wrote something down, which I just want to read now to sort of highlight the way it was. So I said, this was one of the most difficult yet rewarding things I've ever done in my life. Day 1, we didn't know each other. Day 2, some wanted to quit and go home. Day 4, we abseiled. Day 6, we conquered Mount Rose. Day 8, they cried and didn't want to leave. So I said, it's hard to describe the bond you can form with these kids over 8 days and the overwhelming emotions you feel when they leave. What an experience. So I had my 36th birthday last week. 17 years of that I've spent in the police, and 4 years I've spent on council. And that 8 days was probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done. So just to put it out there, anyone is considering it or wants to get involved with Flinders and do anything they can with it, I strongly recommend it because it was amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. And when I read your little spiel there that you sent to me, I nearly had a tear in my eye. I thought, how good is this? And, we've had this presented to us, and we've had students from this present in this chamber, and it's just a wonderful feeling to know that you're doing something for people that don't have it all and are disadvantaged in many cases, and to get the outcomes you do. I think your attitude is fantastic, and it's a real inspiration. So thank you. Any further councillors' reports? Any further reports? We have no petitions. We have no deputations or presentations tonight. We have no adjourned business. Excuse me. We do? Pardon me. 7.1, councillors. The adjourned business was, if we can recall, the names of some of the streets in the Rosalie Township expansion and land division development by Villawood. We have a recommendation on the bottom of page 5. I'll open it up for discussion. Any comments, councillors, in relation to these names? I think the ones that were put forward have been included. Councillor Simon?
I think these are much easier recognisable or spellable names. The only thing that not an issue, but could be a concern is Haynes. And it doesn't say if it's going to be road or street, but there's obviously a Haynes Road is spelled differently with an I instead of a Y, just literally down the road in Williston. So that's the one that I probably would leave out because people are going to get confused. It's really, you guys know where Haynes Road is in Williston? It's Haynes. So it's just, people say, live on Haynes Road. Which one?
We can exclude that if you would like to do that.
I think just for easiness, because it's going to get confusion with the Haynes Road that exists. So
Advice, what do we do to exclude it? Because we don't need to replace it.
No, so through the chair, if that was moved and seconded, subject to that removal of that name, it could be progressed that way.
Okay. So we have a mover that the name Haynes be withdrawn from the recommendation. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Jason?
Yes. And Haynes be ended instead of being HAYNES apostrophe S, but it just be HAYS.
Sorry, through the chair, it's expressed that way in the recommendation. We don't normally put apostrophes in naming as far as.
Just through the chair, that's just some formatting in the document. We've just turned that off, and if you have a look now, you'll it is as you requested. It was just some technical. There was just some technical stuff in the background, but.
Okay, we have a mover and a seconder.
That's moving it subject to Haynes being removed.
It's subject to Haynes being removed. That's right.
I suggest that the apostrophe S be that was the error that identified after that. Simply expunge it. What servants are concerned?
We'll put the motion again. Motion is to remove the name Haynes from the recommendation. I have a mover and I have a seconder. Any further comments, councillors? No further comments? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you, councillors. We guess now we've got a space for a name. O'Brien sounds all right. We move on to our action items, and traditionally we've just used the number of the page at the bottom, and if there's any matter on that page you would like to withdraw, we can talk that through. So on page 6, councillors, are there anything there that you may want to raise?
Yes. Reeling wastewater treatment plant update.
Yes.
And we have some information, further information on that.
Yes, certainly. Megan, would you mind? Thank you.
Through the chair, the contract will be signed imminently. That's hopefully this week. The reason for the delay in having the contract finalised is because all the approvals are also being sought at the same time to make sure the documentation of what is being contracted is correct. There's no anomalies.
Thank you, Megan. Satisfied with that, councillor Peter?
Mayor Bill, on that subject, have we got a cost for this? Final cost?
Through the chair, the final cost is actually close to the original estimate, not a predicted increase. And we can't disclose that until the contract is actually signed.
So we don't have an actual final cost at this point. Is that what you said? Okay with that, councillor?
So when we do sign the contract, we will get told that final cost? Why not?
Through the chair, the details of commercial and confidence, council has approved the budget and it is within the budget.
So on that basis, we should know the final cost.
Correct.
If we've approved the budget for it, we should know the final cost. But that can be released surely. When we say commercial in confidence, the council need to know.
Through the chair, should there be any difference in the budget, that'll be reported through a budget review.
Okay, so what's the figure in the budget? 35, 35? The figure in the budget, I understood to be about 3,500,000. So we'll need to know if it's anything different to that. Thanks, Councillor David. Anything further on page 6? Move to page 7. Thing on page 7. Page 8. Sorry.
Jason Norman, motion on notice unsealed roads from councillor Dean Rowlack. Now, we've got a problem currently with this wet weather. Can infrastructure and works give us any enlightenment?
Well, it's a reasonable question, Councillor Peter, but I think they're probably still inspecting the roads because it's still raining. So they're going to find it very difficult to sort of get any handle on what the future looks like in the short term, let alone the long term. So I might pass that on to someone who can probably answer that better than I can, but might be Megan again.
Through the chair, yes, it has been wet, and yes, we have some roads that are being assessed at the moment. They are all being reported on. We have an action plan, and the roads are being considered with what is required to bring them back to the level they were previously. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Anything further, councillors? We move on to page 8. On page 8. I must say I'm looking forward to Thursday as the AGM of the Local Government Association, and Councillor Reichstein's nomination and Councillor Dr. Nigel Graves, our Finance Manager's election to the Local Government Finance Authority Board. I wish you well, and I'm sure you'll be successful. That will be known on Thursday. Anything further on page 8, councillors? Move to page 9.
Yes, I have something on page 9 right at the top. Renton Mitsos, execution of roundabout at Greenock Road, Samuel Road and Mopper Road South. It says council to proceed with roundabout complete. Well, can we be filled in with any info?
Yeah, thanks, councillor Peter. I did find that word there a little bit strange to be sitting there like that, because I don't think the roundabout's complete by any stretch of the imagination, but the process to get it to this point has been a funding deed. Megan, would you like to respond to that, or perhaps Richard?
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, Mayor Bill's correct in what he said is the recommendation is around the execution of the deed. It is independent of the construction of the roundabout. So what we have done is we've completed the execution of the deed. It was a sign and seal, which Mayor Bill and I have both now done. So from our point of view, that action is completed.
I can understand the confusion with that, though, and perhaps we learn a lesson from this for the future, because it is a bit confusing. Anything further, councillors? Move on. Page 10. If there's nothing from page 10, we move on to section 9 of our agenda, which is normally our recommendations from committees. Well, during caretaker period, we've had no committee meetings, so there's nothing to report. We turn now to section 10, which is reports for information. And we have 10.1 as the RSL Remembrance Day Service temporary road closure. Do we have any issues with that, councillors? It's probably and we have a similar recommendation for the RSL Freeling Day Service and temporary road closure in Freeling. Any issues with that, councillors, that you can see? If not, there's a recommendation on page 16 that the reports for information be received in the contents. Oh, pardon me. 10.3 was the St Ives Display Village Family Fun Day temporary road closure also, which has already taken place. So the reports for information is on page 16. The recommendation says that the reports for information be received and the contents herein be noted by council. Would someone like to move that way? Councillor Sam and Councillor David, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Thanks, councillors, and sorry for that confusion. Reports for decision. We have 11.1, a waiver of a clause relating to the land management agreement on 15 Hazy Circuit Roseworthy, certificate title, blah, blah. We have a recommendation 2/3 down the page. Are there any questions, councillors?
Yes.
Councillor
Sorry
Peter?
to take up so much time. The industrial estate at Roseworthy produces an enormous amount of water runoff. And there is no, as I see it, there's no dealing with that in this. And I think it's a serious business. The water flows north to south down the slope. It has inundated the properties of Halliday and Ryan, and Halliday's have got an enormous mess running their business. And I wonder if more consideration should be given to this very serious water problem, and it's made worse at present. I know that even without the unseasonal rain, it's a problem, and I wonder how we as a council deal with this.
That's a very good question, Councillor Peter. I'm just wondering what this recommendation here would allow, how that would fit into what you're saying. Could I get some help here, Craig?
I think the matters that Councillor Kennelly is referring to are well known in terms of stormwater more broadly around Roseworthy, given it is a large catchment that extends to some degree, from memory, I seem to remember a distance of about 3 kilometres northeast of the town. But in terms of the immediate matter, I'm trying to find it now, but I do recall that the land management agreement had stipulations in there about on-site stormwater provision, which aren't, in fairness, the subject of this particular matter, which is looking at a setback arrangement, one of the setback criterion being waived, or an amendment to that being allowed by council. We are subject to the implementation of the LMA provisions. As to vary them would require further negotiation and a variation of the actual document. So it's a different question to what we've been asked in the context of this report, which is whether council is prepared to waiver in a one-off a stipulation requiring a setback of 10 metres in lieu of a 6 metre allowance for a stormwater tank in this case.
Craig, should council adopt this particular motion, would that impact on what Councillor Peter was talking about?
Well, no, the stormwater will still be assessed as part of the application. It goes through our development engineers and they'll have regard to the LMA provisions in that assessment that apply. This is more about building location on the land as part of that application.
Agree with that, Councillor Peter? I think we do have an issue with the Halliday property. There's no doubt about that. And I guess that's a story for another day, but something we don't want to ignore as well. We need to see where we're up to with that and what can be done now that there's a lot of work going on at Roseworthy.
Yes, Mr Mayor, and if I may, just on that through you, over time, council has been aware, council has looked at making modifications to draw down on the basin within that estate as well. So there have been steps taken through the process as well.
Further questions, councillors? Councillor Lynn?
We've already given approval to another one to be at 6 metres instead of 8. And I think this is a good move because it's not going to, I went and had a look, and it's not going to have any effect on the runoff. It'll just give them the opportunity to have a tank, which I think I'm right, am I, Craig? Yes, it's just going to give them a tank. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with the runoff or any of that. That's to me is a different issue that we need to address. I agree, but I'd move the recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Lynn. Someone like to second this recommendation? Councillor Sharon? Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. We move on now to 11.2, a private code amendment, the Old Sturt Highway, Nuriupta. Craig, I might pass to you here. We have a recommendation about 2/3 of the way down page 20 for councillors to consider, but I might pass to you about a line in there that should be withdrawn.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, it was just after the publishing of the agenda that I realised that, and I'll be honest, I committed one of the faux pas that can happen sometimes when you borrow from a previous report about a bit of background. So on page 22, I included some material there from earlier report just describing the new process with designated instruments and the ability for a proponent to be a private proponent for a code amendment, which is a new aspect of the Planning, Development and Infrastructure Act. But there was a paragraph that I failed to remove a little bit further down on page 22 that referred to Land Vision Group in respect of this matter and their approval proposal to initiate from the Minister. That should have been deleted as that related to a matter in Roseworthy that we considered in July. And separate from that, there was another element concerning infrastructure deeds, which followed on from that. So I do apologise. Those should have been removed. They weren't part of this particular matter. Aside from if there are any other small errors in there, I apologise. But this really was at its core to highlight that we've been asked for comment and the period for responding concluded yesterday. So the question asked of council is whether any further amendments need to be added subsequently to what I've put in as a placeholder, so to speak, as a submission on behalf of council. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you, Craig, for that. Those sorts of things are easily done, but we've rectified it. Are there any questions, councillors, or comments that you'd like to raise? If not, we have a recommendation.
So,
Oh, councillor Zeller.
yeah, it's an excellent report. Reads like a DEP agenda report, so good on you. No, it's good, and I like the submission. It's perfect. And another thing that I've noted is that for the first time, and I really do like that, is where it says budget impact. Usually you just got a no or yes or whatever, but you got a no, and then however it is noted that in-kind resourcing has been applied in the form of staff time. I'm really, really happy about that, because it always seems to be forgotten. Like, you guys work hard and you get paid well. So whenever you make a phone call, write a report, whatever, that's money spent. And you actually, so if it has impact on budget or not, but it actually shows that. No, so I think it's a good thing. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor Simon. Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation 2/3 down page 20. Someone like to move that way?
Yes, I will, because
Councillor
it's an
Lynn
old one.
and
we've
councillor
had for a
Simon.
long time.
Further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, those against, that's carried. Thank you, councillors. Well, we're moving on to section 12, which are questions on notice, which we have nil. Questions without notice? Councillor David?
Gundry's Hill, I believe, at one time there was a plaque up there too with Mr. Kidman and his horses, which was put up there by the Light and Kapunda Tourism Association at great expense. I believe it's been removed. Can anybody throw any light on it? Has it been removed to be repaired, or is it going to get replaced, or what's the story?
Thank you, Megan.
Might I clarify, is that a sign about so big? Because there was a sign that was vandalised extensively, which has been removed to be replaced, if that's the one we're talking about. If this is the same one, yes, to be replaced, not repaired as too damaged, but we're going to replicate it and provide another one. If that is the same sign, yes.
Thank you, Megan. Further questions, councillor Bill?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just a query, with the recent rain and the fact that several of our rivers are on flood watch at the moment. Is there a council protocol for flood awareness, or do we just support SES, or do we have to in any way provide sandbagging facilities should it get worse, or is it left to the emergency services department?
Megan's like a little jack in the box.
Thank you, through the chair. When there is an emergency situation, such as a flood, the SES are the control agency. The SES will seek support from the council as it requires. Council is also part of the local government functional support group. So where a council is in a situation where it requires assistance, it goes back through that functional support group, who will then call on other councils to assist with whatever resources is required. So from our point of view, we also have an emergency management plan, but when it comes to this current situation, it's with the SES at the moment.
So we do collaborate with the SES on these matters. I think that's where.
Through the chair, the SES have requested some assistance in the form of signage and roads to be closed.
Yeah, I noted that our council staff had been around the whole region and putting signs up, and I commend them for that. And I understand we run out of signs. So must be, it's pretty widespread when we run out of signs. So hopefully we won't run out of signs in the future. But hopefully we don't get flooding like this in the future. But I commend the staff for, you know, for that instant action on the Monday morning. It's probably happened as quickly as it possibly could, and to get around the whole region that quickly is well done.
Mr. Mayor, just a further question, if I may. The river flow monitors or gauges, are they controlled by SA Water, or are they who monitors those?
Richard.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid answering infrastructure questions, but others may not know this one. Department of Environment and Water actually manage all of those throughout the state. So they actually have a direct contract with Clare and Gilbert Valleys Council. So there's only one council point of contact, and we contribute to the management of those through a contribution or through a group contribution with us, Adelaide Plains, Clare and Gilbert and Wakefield.
Thank you, Richard. Further questions, councillors? If not, we have no motions on notice and no motions without notice. We have no confidential items. Oh, pardon me. Motions without notice. Do we have any motions without notice? We don't. Councillors, this is our last meeting as this elected body. And I must say we've, since 2018, we've had over 50 council meetings. We've had many special meetings, many workshops, which we can call workshops now. And we've had our committee meetings, which most of us attend regularly as well. And I'd like to sincerely thank you, for your commitment to that. We have a really good attendance rate at our council meetings, very few apologies, and at our committee meetings also. So we're committed, and I think we can be very proud of what's happened in the last 4 years. I think it's probably been, certainly in my time with this council, this has been the most productive period I think that we've had. And a lot of things have happened, and a lot of our vision has been realised. And we're now in a very exciting situation where we can move on and move forward and look to the future with confidence. Our council is financially very, very stable, and we've got progressive people around the table. So it sits very, very kindly. We've got also the support of our government. They are looking at us in a very favourable manner because of what we've been able to achieve. And I've had that from many ministers that I've met in the last few months. And that's a really nice feeling to get when people start to compliment us. Like a young chap that rang through tonight, for example, he wanted to be here to say thank you to this council. So you may recall when we sponsored the Quiet Festival in Greenock, that young lad that got up that night and spoke beautifully. He spoke so powerfully. And this council, including me, sat there and couldn't understand what this festival was really all about. But we soon learned that it was going to be something that our young people in this region here would enjoy. And we got behind it and supported it. It was a great success. And that was just one matter that's happened today, for example. He took the time to ring and say thanks and make sure that I passed that on. But I think, Councillor Marks, Flinders Ranges, that's just an amazing achievement and something we can be proud of as well, to be part of that. And hopefully our councils in the future will continue to support that particular program. And there's many other things I could mention as well, but I think we all know what they are. But I do say sincerely thank you, and thank you for support for me too as chair. It's not always an easy task when we have so many different matters to deal with, and we have people's personalities to deal with as well. And that's always in a respectful manner. And it does put a lot of pressure on you each month to come to a council meeting and understand that we've got important business to conduct, and we must conduct it as professionally as we can, but we must enjoy being here. Otherwise, we're not going to put our hand up again. And I know we've got a number of our councillors that put their hand up again, and I'm so happy they have. And we've got some retirements, of course, for all other reasons. And we've got some candidates here tonight, which I'm so pleased that they were able to be here. Although I see a council meeting, it's not really a council meeting, it was a little bit different tonight. because of the situation we find ourselves in, but get some understanding. And I wish all of those candidates well in this forthcoming election, and including ourselves who have reached, putting our hand up. So in November, we'll know what it's going to look like in this chamber. It could be very different. It might be similar, but it will be different in some way. And hopefully just as committed and just as positive as the last 4 years have been. So again, thank you so much. And with that, I'll close the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for our guests attending. I didn't mention the staff. Also, I take my hat off to the staff. They've been pretty good to me.